one time when my cats died, when I was in a different village in a different state. Yeah, I wasn't this old that time, so I didn't remember. So I didn't know about it till my mom tell me about it. It made me sad, but I was having an idea of maybe buying a cat. It looks just like him, and name him just like him. Then we might forget about that old voice of him and think he is that cat.
Yes. Yes to everything you just said. It makes us sad, right? I mean, it's one of the things that happens in this lifetime. And I had a chance to watch a Sesame Street episode called Saying Goodbye to Mr. Hooper. Now, this happened a long time before you folks were born on Sesame Street, but if you have time to ask your moms and dads and your loved ones to watch that episode, it does such a nice job of explaining why these things happen. It happens to us, and we really don't understand why we have to go away and that we pass away. But one of the things that's really nice is that you still remember your cat, right? You still remember your beautiful cat, and the memories of those things that pass away that we love, those people, those beloved pets that pass away, we can remember them, and we can always honor them because they help make our lives a little better. Your chickens that passed away, that these are creatures that we got to know and that loved and changed us for the better. So that is the positive that comes from an event like death. And we can look at it as sad, but we can also look at it as being a thing that is part of our life. And so on we go. I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to ask if I could give you, the congregation, if you'd be so kind to stand as you're able. We're going to light the chalice now. And I would like you, my dear tutu friend, would you help me light the chalice? And you, my chicken friend, would you help me? Okay, let's go up here and light the chalice. Yes. Come on up. Put your hands in there. All right, folks, let us sing our children on their way. Go now in peace, go now in peace. The spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
Please be seated. We are so blessed to be here today. It's amazing to have Kabin leading the service once again. Thank you, Kabin. Amazing to have children who are no longer in the room, but were here, and to be gathered together, and to have this morning to welcome 4 new members. And they are Bibi Bereles McCammond, who will step forward. Maybe. And Dan Boster, who will step forward also, and Lee Clausen, and Mary Fieber. And before they've already signed the membership book. We kind of took care of that ahead of time. But I'm going to read a little bit about each of them, and then together we'll say some words about covenant. And we're going to begin with Bibi. And would you step forward as we talk about you? Bibi is a forceful, independent, liberal, result-oriented, practical, atheist woman who happens to be married and mother of 2. She was born and raised as the 10th child out of 11 by immigrant parents in Oregon. Kate Roche, was that an O? Kate Roche and Deb Duggan invited her to visit First UU, where she met a group of people that encourage free thinking, open dialogue, and welcome everyone. Her interests are hair, books, making and finishing lists. I do one of those. Schedules, organizing, and labeling. Welcome, Bibi. And Dan is originally from Texas, but he has been in the Midwest for the last 20 years, including the last 15 in Omaha. Dan and his wife, Marnie, have been married for 19 years, and they have 2 children, Libby and Noble, who I think are all here. You guys want to stand up just so we know who you are? Thank you. Welcome. Wait, now I got lost. Oh, yes. Dan was an English major all the way and has a BA from the University of Texas, an MA from the University of Wisconsin, and a PhD from the University of Nebraska. Dan currently teaches English and serves as an instructional coach at Ralston High School and teaches education courses at UNO. Dan does work with local groups to promote mindfulness, meditation, and writing. He's also in our Taoist group. He enjoys traveling with his family and supporting them in the things they do. He was first drawn to UU by the search for a liberal group to commune with, and continues to be inspired by the music and the poetry and the services and the friendly and engaging people. So welcome, Dan. This kind of feels like the cool kids table up here, doesn't it? Lee Clausen. Lee grew up in Columbus, Nebraska. He originally moved to Omaha to attend UNO, where he earned a master's in urban studies. He is currently a freelance writer, cool, and group facilitator. He has a passion for helping those in the mental health community and became a member of First UU because of our shared sense of social service and community connection. Welcome, Lee. And Mary. Mary wrote my favorite sentence in all of this, and you'll have to guess which one it is. Mary was born in Wisconsin to depression babies who became an academic anesthesiologist and a special educator. She grew up in Omaha and attended the College of St. Olaf in Minnesota, returning to Omaha for medical school. She went from Omaha to Nebraska for a surgery internship and pathology residency. Then she completed her fellowship in LA County Hospital in Los Angeles. She had a short-lived marriage to a fellow pathologist and then got a horse with whom she had a wonderful relationship for 14 years. There's no reason to say more, but I'll read more. Mary practiced medicine at St. Joseph for 6 years and finished her career in Oklahoma City and Aden, Oklahoma. Then she retired to Omaha in July of 2016 and is having a ball while recovering from the culture of Oklahoma. Welcome, Mary. So I ask all of you to stand up and join us in saying the words of covenant. We pledge to walk together in the ways of truth and affection, as best we know them now, and may learn them in the days to come, that we and our children may be fulfilled, and we may speak to the world in words and actions of peace and goodwill. We welcome you into the covenant of our congregation. Welcome to each of you.
Welcome again. We have many announcements in our order of service that you can peruse at your leisure. I haven't been trained as a worship associate in a long time, so when I forget everything I'm supposed to do, just stand up and yell at me. We want to thank Janet West for the flowers today and the Fifth Sunday fill-ins for the hospitality team. Very nice, we appreciate it. If you are visiting today for the first time or the second or third, fourth time, and you would like to take a blue cup when you come down to our coffee hour where we get together as a group, that will let us know that you are newer and might welcome conversation. We will flock to you like something that flocks to something else. Don't forget that today we have a First Steps class. If you're new to UU and have questions, the Beltane ritual is something tonight that I'd like to highlight, and then also on May 1st there is an OTAC meeting that Janet West would like us to highlight. We must announce from our pulpit that the 148th annual congregational meeting will be held Sunday, May 14th at 12 p.m. It is Mother's Day. But we will get you out as early as possible to go have lunch with your families. And do make sure that you sign in, thank you, Carolyn, on the pink sheets that are in your pews. We very much appreciate having all of you here. It is time to take up our offertory to serve the needs of our congregation and the greater community. The Share the Plate beneficiary this month is Community Meals, and Change for Change will go to the Neighborhood Ministry team. You may remain comfortably seated, but please join us in singing hymn 108 in the gray hymnal, My Life Flows On in Endless Song. Today's lesson has changed with the change of your worship associate. So I'm actually going to read Tony Steinberg, Brave 7th Grade Viking Warrior, by the poet, my favorite poet, Taylor Mali. Have you ever seen a Viking ship made out of popsicle sticks and balsa wood, coils of brown thread for ropes, 16 oars made out of chopsticks, and a red and yellow sail made from a ripped piece of a little baby brother's footy pajamas? I have. He died with his sword in his hand and so went straight to heaven. The Vikings often buried their bravest warriors in ships or set them adrift and on fire, a floating island of flames, the soul of the brave warrior rising slowly in the smoke. In order to understand life in Scandinavia in the Middle Ages, you must understand the construction of a Viking ship. So here's what I want the class to do. I want you to build me a miniature Viking ship. You have a month to complete the assignment. You can use whatever materials you want, but you must all work together like warriors. Those are the projects that I'm known for as a history teacher, like the Greek shield project or the marshmallow catapult project. And there was the Egyptian pyramid project. Have you ever seen a family of 4 standing around a card table after dinner, each holding one triangular side of a miniature cardboard Egyptian period until the glue finally dried? I haven't either, but Mrs. Steinberg said that it took 90 minutes. And even with the little brother on one side saying, "This is stupid, Tony. If I get Mr. Mali next year, my pyramid will be designed in such a way that we will not necessitate us holding it for 90 minutes while the glue dries." And Tony on the other side saying, shut up, you idiot. No, walk away. No, if you walk away before the glue dries, I will disembowel you with your own Sony PlayStation." Even with all that, It was the best family time they'd spent together since Hanukkah. He died with his sword in his hand and so went straight to heaven. Mr. Molly, if that's true, that if you died with your sword in your hand, you would go straight to Valhalla, then if you were like a really old Viking and you were about to die of old age, could you just keep your sword right by your bed? So if you ever felt like, I might die of old age tonight, you could just reach out and grab it? If I were a Viking god, I don't think I'd fall for that. But if I were an old Viking and about to die of old age, that is exactly what I would do. You are a genius. He died with his sword in his hand, and so went straight to heaven. Tony Steinberg had been missing from school for 6 weeks before we finally found out what was wrong. And the 12 boys left whispered the name of the disease as if you could catch it from saying it too loud. We'd been warned. The middle school head had come to class and said Tony was coming to school on Friday, but he's had a rough time. The medication he's taking has made all his hair fall out, so nobody stare, nobody point, nobody laugh. I always said I liked teaching in a private school because I could talk about God and not be breaking the law. And I sure talk about God a lot. Yeah, history, that's easy. Even the Egyptian pyramid project is essentially a spiritual exercise. But how can you teach about math and not believe in God? A God of perfect points and planes, surrounded by right angles and archangels of varying degrees. Such a God would not give cancer to a 7th grade boy, wouldn't make his hair fall out from chemotherapy. Totally bald in a jacket and tie on Friday morning, and I don't just mean Tony Steinberg. Not one single boy in my class had hair that day. The other 12 had all shaved their heads in solidarity. Have you ever seen 13 bald-headed 7th graders all pointing, all staring, all laughing? I have. And it's a beautiful sight. And it's almost as striking as 12 boys 6 weeks later, now with crew cuts on a Saturday morning, standing outside the synagogue with heads bowed, holding hands and standing in a circle around the smoldering remains of a miniature Viking ship, which they have set on fire, the brave soul of a brave warrior rising with the smoke.
Good morning. How do I follow that beautiful music? Thank you, Maestro. Thank you, William. Just wonderful. The choir is sounding remarkable. And it just broke my heart to listen to that because it's so beautiful. So thank you. I guess that's part of what it was supposed to do, and it did it. Just tremendous. And thank you, Kate, so much for stepping in as the worship associate. That story was incredible and got me all teary. We should have done a Unitarian altar call after that, but I don't know what we would have done, maybe math problems or something. So to keep everything going, it's good to see you folks, and it's really exceptionally good to see those babies in the front row, especially since I'm going to be talking about death. Well, no, it's actually not that bad. It's what happens, right? 115,600 people die every day, but 300,000 are born. So it gives you an idea of perspective. It's what happens. It's who we are. It's because. It's just because. I want to read to you a poem by someone who has inspired me more than actually words can say, which is why I'm doing this poem that he wrote. Matt Mason is not only a friend, but he is a living, breathing embodiment of good and power, majesty. And he's able to share that with his words, with his poetry. And that is something to behold. He wrote a piece. I asked him if he had any pieces about death. And he said that, oh, yeah, quite a few. And he let me pick, and this is the one that I really admire. If you don't know the poetry of Matt Mason, you should get to know it as soon as you can. The name of this piece is called Holding, and it is: the hospice nurse suggests that mom doesn't know she can go, suggests we can say goodbye, can let her know it's okay if she does. The nurse believes she's staying past her time, that she's holding on for us, despite her body shutting down, leg by hip, by eye, by spine, falling to pieces in front of us. The nurse says, Mom watches the corner of the room as if someone waits by the blue chair who only she can see. This morning, she winked at him before turning her face back and smiling at the rest of us there. Pretty amazing. My mom, she died in 2003, and that was a big loss for me because she was the person who supported me if I was doing great, and she slapped me on my head if I was not doing so well and needed to be stepping up. She was always my inspiration from the time I was born at way back when, weighing 10 pounds, 14 ounces. My mom was 5 feet 0, so I brought her a lot of pain at the beginning and through her life, and through it all, she still loved me, and she still cherished me even on her deathbed. Here's my mother, intubated. They actually had to strap her down because she was a nurse. She just wanted to not have the tube down her throat. So it was a very difficult and almost horrific time to see my poor mother, small but strong, so small in that transitional bed of hers. And of all the things she could have said, and all the things, because she had a little notepad that she would write on, all the things that she could have written down and said to me, get me out of here, something along those lines. She didn't say any of that. The thing that came out of her mouth as she saw all of us gathered, she looked at me and she wrote, "Are you okay?" Can you believe that? That even on her transitional bed, with, these braces, that she's wearing, and she could still sit there and write, "Are you okay?" to me. And I said, "Mom, are you serious? Are you okay?" And she writes, "Could be worse." She died 3 days later because she was a practical woman. She knew that we were all gathered, and she didn't want to be a burden. Actually, the doctor said that she could live another 6 months to a year. But Mom, being the practical person that she always was, she said, "You were all here from all over the place. I don't want to be a big burden to you folks." I know these are the things that went on in her mind. And she shut her system down. She willed herself to go. We were all there. She was 79. She had lived a very good life. No, that's just not true. She had a very tough life. The wife of a schizophrenic, always poor, barely able to make it, and yet she still lived with such concern, and she willed herself to go. And 3 days later, from her diagnosis in this hospital, my mother was dead. And in death, what did she do? She donated her body to science so that some medical student could see that cancer that was growing in her and maybe, just maybe, help find a cure, or at least some sort of way to make it chronic as opposed to something that was terminal. She was a remarkable person. During those last few hours of my mother's life, her eyes were wild. She kept looking, and she kept pointing, not at us. We were here. She was pointing up, and I was thinking maybe she's just tripping because she's got the high morphine thing going on, and I said, "Could I have some of that?" But me being the person who's not quite tethered to this earth, in the same way I think most people are, I knew exactly. Nobody had to tell me. She was seeing her future. My mother was a very religious woman. She was a strong Catholic, and she really believed that there was a heaven. And if there is one, folks, if anyone belongs there, it's my mom. She deserved it through all that she went through. And she just kept looking at all these people that were approaching, just like in Matt's poem, winking at that person who was sitting in that blue chair. Mom was going, "Hey, all right, good to see you guys," because that's where she was. And I had no problem with that. I really didn't. And I hope she actually is where she was hoping she would go. If you know me, you know that I write Facebook devotionals pretty much every day. Well, Monday through Friday for sure. And I'm always saying crazy things like, "Hey folks, today is the last 30 April that you are going to get, 30 April 2017. This is the last one that you're going to have. So you might as well try to live this as best you have, because this day is the only one you have. You break a record today for the number of days you've been alive. So from the moment that you open your eyes, you need to celebrate that, because this is it. This is it. Everything else is going to be a memory, and you're definitely not guaranteed the next minute." And I always write that down, and I always get a little trouble from friends who are like, "Yeah, hey, Kabin, this is it, right?" And I'm like, yeah, it really is. This day, this moment is the one that you get, and there are no do-overs, as at least we don't know that to be. I wrote, as part of my blurb, "The Clock is Ticking." And I like that title, but Mary hates the blurb I stuck in, which was, and I love Mary so much, and she is my lioness, and she lets me know when I'm screwing up all the time. The blurb I wrote was, "We've been given a cruel gift called life. The cruelty is knowing it's going to end, and why don't we want to talk about our inevitable end?" And I say that this sermon that I'm doing explores this question. Cruel gift. She goes, "Why cruel gift? I don't understand this cruel gift business." And what I didn't tell Mary, what I'm going to tell Mary now and tell you folks, is I heard that on The Sopranos. Dr. Melfi was talking to Tony Soprano. And I'm a big TV movie person. I think those writers there are actually the prophets of the future. Maybe not so much, Buffy. Buffy even too. But the bottom line is, she talked about the cruel gift of this life. And it is a cruel gift. You don't think it's a cruel gift? Look on YouTube and see all the kids who are given the realization that they are going to die. This one that just kills me is this young girl. She's maybe 5 or 6. She has a newborn, her little brother, in her hands, and her mom. They had just come from a funeral of their grandma, and they said, Nana died, and the little girl goes, "Oh, I'm so sorry that Nana died. That's such a shame." And the mom goes, "Well, we all do. We all die." And the little girl goes, "What? My little brother, he's just born and he's gonna die? Yeah, no." And then she thinks for a second and she goes, "I'm gonna die. Yeah, I don't wanna die," right? And it is that realization at this young age of 4 or 5. It's pretty remarkable to understand that this thing comes to an end. And yet we have a tendency to put it behind us. But in its own way, it's a beautifully existential moment. It's an existential existence. And there's a lot of good that comes from that if we're willing to realize it, if we're willing to walk with it as opposed to run from it. There's a wonderful episode I was telling the kids down here of Sesame Street. It was in 1983, and it was episode 1839. Ooh, right? Just move those numbers around. It's when Mr. Hooper dies. And Big Bird comes out, and they were having a hard time they didn't know if they wanted to talk about his death. They were going to say like he moved to France or something. And they said, "No, let's take this on head on. This is an uncomfortable subject. Let's talk about it." And so they did, and Big Bird was part of it, and then all the adults on Sesame Street. There were no kids in this particular scene in this episode, and they talked about death. And one of the things that Big Bird just didn't understand, why do you have to die? He asked that question, why do we have to die? Why is that? And then, there's tears. Everyone in the cast is crying. They're talking about the fact that it is. And one of the characters gets up and he looks at Big Bird and he says, "Because." And Big Bird goes, "Because?" And he looks at him again and he says, "Because there's no God, there was no heaven or hell, there was no coming back again. It was just because." And Big Bird accepted that, and they all got together and they had this big, beautiful existential hug, which brought the show to its conclusion. And it was a remarkable, I got a chance to watch that. Yes, I did watch Sesame Street, and I was like in my 20s. And I just sat there and I wept because of the beauty of just because. They didn't want to go into anything else. It is what it is. And I thought that was really special. And that was the first time on national television that I think that was ever hit. By the way, that was considered by the Daytime Emmys as one of the top 10 moments of television, period. Now that is a big deal, that they would use that beautiful moment to just say, because we don't want to go into anything besides that, just a beautifully existential moment of because. In 2013, I wrote David Feingold of Nebraska Educational Television, and I asked him, could we do a show on death and dying? And not just a once show, but a show that was weekly. Of course, he didn't write me back. And so I started writing him regularly, once every week or so. And I just kept writing because I have kind of that thing, like I just need an answer, even if that answer is no. And so after 2 years, I got a phone call from one of his programmers, because this guy, he's very busy. And she goes, "Why do you stalk us so? Why do you want to do a show about death?" And I said, "Because it freaks me out. It freaks me out." And for those people it doesn't freak out, good for you, bully for you, but it freaks me out, and I want to discuss it. I want to have a show that talks about it. Doesn't have to be me, although I'd like it to be me hosting the show, of course, because of my ego. But I want a show that talks about it on a weekly basis. And they said, "Well, I'm not sure if we can do that." So I started writing 2 letters a week. And finally, after about another year, I get a phone call, and she says to me, "Okay, you can have a show. We're going to put you on NET2, and we're going to do this show weekly." And I was like, "Yay!" And she goes, "If you pay for it." And I said, "Okay, how much would it be?" $15,000 an episode. So about $730,000 for an entire year. So I'll be starting a Kickstarter, folks, and start reaching in your pockets. We'll be doing another offertory. No, just joking. But it's a great idea, and I think it's something that should be discovered. It's something that should be talked about, because we don't talk about it. So I've been walking around asking people, "Hey, could you please tell me what death means to you?" And I used to do this when I was actually single. That's not a great date conversation starter, because pretty much those dates ended right away, because they thought I had a van in the back. Rolling probable cause, folks. My minister, besides Reverend Frank, who I appreciate allowing me these few moments on this podium, one of the closest people that I knew besides Frank was another Unitarian minister, Rhett Baird, in Fayetteville, Arkansas. And we had a talk about death when I was a professor down there. And he called death a parade, a grand parade. And we were all part of it. We're all a short part of this experience. We live, we're born, like these little ones. We grow up, we get old, and we pass on. And we leave this world, hopefully a little better place than when we came. Hopefully we entertained people. Hopefully we made people's lives a little bit better. That always stuck with me. It's not something to be afraid of. It is something to acknowledge and to recognize and to affirm. Because. Just because. My friend of over 30 years, or 30 years this year, Debbie Kamias, who's not only my dear friend, she's my spiritual guide. She's the person that saw me through breaking up with Mary and being and still in love with her for the 27 years that we were apart. Debbie has talked me down from emotional cliffs, and Debbie knows that this is an issue that is close to my heart. Debbie has had to listen to me hundreds of times talk about death. The clock's ticking, Debbie. I'm wasting my life, Debbie. Time is moving fast, Debbie. And finally, bless her heart, she goes, "Stop talking about it. Why are you talking about it so much? You are the most obsessed person about death I've ever met. Why?" And I was in Abu Dhabi at the time. And I was talking to her about the fact that my time in Abu Dhabi was coming to an end. But I was talking to her about my time in Abu Dhabi coming to an end in December, when my contract ended in July. And she goes, "Why don't you just enjoy your time there?" And I said, "Debbie, the reason why I talk about it now is because I appreciate it that much more. Because I do know that it's going to end. And I'm pretty sure I'm never going to come back to this situation that I'm in." It helps me. Considering death, I posit to you, is important for 5 reasons. Let me share those with you. Number one, it gives you perspective. Nothing helps you enjoy the present more than accepting its end. It's not something that you don't talk about. It's something that you should talk about on a regular basis. I'm not saying sleep in a coffin like some of those monks over there in France do. I'm just talking about the fact that it helps focus you. Understanding that your life is going to come to an end is something one should recognize every single day. Nothing helps you enjoy the present more than accepting the fact that it is going to end. You know what? You let go of your bullshit. You do. You can. If you understand that it is going to come to an end, you let go of your bullshit. You have to. Why get caught up in petty? There's no need. You don't have time for that. You let go of the petty. You let go of the unnecessary. You know why? Because it's unnecessary. You get cut off in traffic, huh? Let it go. Who cares? Who cares? Bless them. That'll piss them off. You think Jack Perry right now cared about getting cut off in traffic? You think Evelyn, who was the beautiful woman who did the quilts? What was her name? Yvonne. Think she cares? Think of all the people that have gone before us. You think they care about getting cut off in traffic? Think they care about somebody who's not been polite to them? It's ridiculous. Just let it go. Number 2, you stop screwing around with people you don't want to be around because you don't have time for them. You just don't. Give them a blessing and move the hell on. You got better things to do. Every minute that you waste with somebody that you don't want to be with is a minute that you're not going to get back because guess what? This is your time. This is it. You're living in real time and it's over. And you're dealing with somebody who's bringing you down, or you're dealing with somebody who is committed to not being happy. Let them not be happy without you. You don't have time for that. Time is rolling. Number 3, use that china. Don't wait. Stop saving up. Go to McDonald's, grab that Big Mac, put it on that nice piece of Delft china there. Eat it up. Do what you want, folks. Eat that piece of cake. Look at my stomach. Look at me. Look at me. Enjoy. It doesn't matter. Go to France. What are you waiting for? Wear purple. Be goofy. Be yourself. Don't worry about what people think. Recognize your uniqueness and just go with that. If we recognize our end better, we would not do 1/10 of the things we do. Oh, Kabin, but the suicide rate would go up. Well, it would go up. Those people who want to check out will check out. Those people who want to live will live. Keep doing what is of you because you understand the clock is ticking. Stay motivated. Number 4, it keeps you motivated. Knowing that you're coming to your end, you're going to want to leave your mark. You want to move forward. You again, like I said, people said that suicide rate or craziness or anarchy would rule. I don't think so. I think that the more that we understand, the more we pay attention to the fact that our life is coming, that the clock is ticking, and our time here is short. We would be pretty motivated to move forward. Mary's giving me the look. My lioness is giving me the look, which must mean that I'm approaching my time. So. Number 5, see, we got here, and I'm only a couple minutes over. You see that look? She just stops me cold, man. I love you so much. I love you so much, Mary. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you forever. Oh, my God. She goes, keep going. Well, no. Number 5 is love. I love you. I love you folks. You see a crash. Have you ever participated in a crash? Some sort of event where you're in a car crash or with a group of people? Isn't it interesting how loving we all become when we survive that crash? And 15 minutes later, we hate each other again. But the fact is that there's something that happens. We give up all the stuff. We take off all the shell. We remove all the guards. And for that minute, we love each other because we're human beings and we're all together, man, because we get it. Because we almost died. And when there's this love. That's what we do. We love. By recognizing the fact our time is short, we love. I lost 30 years with that woman. I love her. I know I drive her crazy when I wake up in the morning. Hey! We're alive another day. Shut up. Love. Love means everything. In the movie Interstellar, I told you I'm into this thing. I'll read this thing and maybe I'll bring it to an end here. Interstellar, if you haven't seen Interstellar, you need to see it for just these couple of minutes that Anne Hathaway shares, talking about love. It was written by John and Chris Nolan. It's a conversation between Dr. Cooper, who was played by Matt McConaughey, woo, and Dr. Brand, Anne Hathaway, woo. They have the most amazing conversation about love. It's almost like it's a side conversation, but to me, it's the entire story. And she goes, Dr. Hathaway says, so listen to me when I tell you that love isn't something we invented. It's observable, powerful. Why shouldn't it mean something? We love people who died. Where's the social utility in that? Maybe it means more, something we can't even understand yet. Maybe it's some evidence, some artifact of higher dimensions that we can't consciously perceive. She says, I'm drawn across the universe to someone I haven't seen in a decade who I know is probably dead. Love is the one thing we're capable of. It's the one thing we're capable of perceiving that transcends dimensions of time and space. Maybe we should trust that, even if we can't understand it. This life, ladies and gentlemen, is about love. The clock is ticking. Don't waste time doing anything else. Love. Love, 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 love. It's the one thing we can do. We can change the world if we just spend more time, instead of living in fear of our death, living in love, because our clock is ticking. It makes this life that much sweeter. Like the strawberry that we feast on while dancing madly at the lip of the volcano. Love. I want to do a show about death. I want to bring the Death Cafe here to First Unitarian so that we can talk about it. Because that's how we're going to live. And maybe one day, folks, we won't need a show like Sesame Street to explain this to us. Thank you. Folks, if you'd be so kind to stand as you're able, as we're going to sing song number 1064.
was a girl each week, on Sunday we would go to church and pay attention to the priest. He would read the holy word, consecrate the holy bread, and everyone would kneel and bow. Today the only difference is everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. When I was in Sunday school, we would learn about the time Moses split the sea in two, and Jesus made the water wine. And I remember feeling sad that miracles don't happen still, but now I can't keep track. Everything's a miracle. Everything's a miracle. Wine from water is not so small, but a better even magic trick is that anything is here at all. So the challenging thing becomes not to look for miracles, but finding when there isn't one. When holy water's rare at best, it barely wet my fingertips. But now I have to hold my breath like I'm swimming in a sea of it. It used to be a world half there, heaven's second-rate hand-me-down, but I walk it with a reverent air. Everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. Read a questioning child's face and say it's not a testament. That'd be very hard to say. See another new morning come and say it's not a sacrament. I tell you that it can't be done. This morning outside I stood, saw a little red-winged bird, shining like a burning wood, singing like a scripture verse. It made me want to bow my head. I remember when church went out, how things have changed since then. Everything is holy now. It used to be a world half there, heaven's second-rate hand-me-down, but I walk it with a reverent air, 'cause everything is holy now.